Yeah.
Good evening, friends. Welcome to the ninth and an extremely important, powerful, and special episode of Status Single with Shree, Season 2, the Women Who Inspire Me series. As I've been saying all throughout the month of October, this for us in my home state of Bengal is called the Devi Pokho. All over India, we are celebrating the Mother Goddess, the arrival, the ascension, the entry of the Mother Goddess. Many of you must have already started your Navratra fast, but it's also been, according to me, a time of looking inward, a time of introspection. We've had heinous incidents of rape. We've had, incidents of communal disharmony. So the heart is full. But my guest this evening is a very, very special, a very powerful single woman. As I keep reiterating at the beginning of every single show, we are now 74.1 million single women in India. So, cheers to our tribe. Cheers to single women in India, being respected, being given equal privileges, opportunities, equal pay, of course, and an end to the discrimination and the inequality and the social stigma. That is my wish for the single women of this country. Rakhee Lalvani, who is the Vice President, PR and Corporate Communications, IHCL, who sort of is a well known figure and contender in the realm of hospitality, joins me from Mumbai. Welcome, Rakhee.
Thank you so much, Shree. So I was born in Calcutta, and Pujo was like, as important to me as it is for Bengalis. So yes, I kind of miss my
Yeah.
time in Calcutta. Thank you for having me, Shree.
You're most welcome, Rakhi. I must, take us back a decade at least. That's the
Yeah.
time span I know you. And I actually met Rakhi for our viewers, just to give you some context and background. When I was a journalist in the Asian Age in Bangalore, and Bangalore was at that time not this very happening, yuppie, young and vibrant metro. It was a sleepy little pensioners' paradise. And we had only a few hotels, a few page three celebrities, and a few great events which used to happen. And I ran into Rakhi for the first time. Rakhi, you may or may not remember this.
I
There was a
remember,
Kashmiri
of
food
course.
festival at the Taj Westend. That was the first thing I ever covered at your hotel. And Rakhi is a very tall woman. You can't make out because she's seated here. I am, of course, a pygmy compared to Rakhi. But she waltzed into
Right.
the restaurant and she was dressed beautifully in a lovely sari. And like most hoteliers, most stunning hotelier, women, and she was wearing a string of pearls and a nice, beautiful watch. And somehow, Rakhi just stood out. Her personality, her professionalism, her warmth, and her in-depth knowledge of communication, it stayed with me. Of course, both of us were single women, so we had a lot to chat about, I think, even in Bangalore, and that has continued over the years. Of course, Rakhi today has moved from Bangalore to Mumbai, and today she, as I said, is a very, very strong and powerful figure in the realm of hospitality and communication. And I'm so proud of you, Rakhi. More power, more glory, and more good health to you. I think Rakhi has been facing some bad communication. Rakhi, can you hear me?
Thank you so much. And Shree, the same to you. You're a force of drilling up for. I can hear you. Am I audible?
Yeah, there is a bit of a voice lag. So for our viewers,
Am I
Rakhi is
audible?
having, yeah, you're audible. Just want to tell our
I'm not
viewers to be a
audible.
little patient with us. You are audible.
Okay.
Yeah. But just telling our viewers that there's a bit of a time lag because of a bad Wi Fi connection in Bombay today, unfortunately. So bear with us.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Rakhee, you may hear me little slowly also because of your connection, but we'll manage. So, Rakhee, my first question to you is your foray into hospitality. As you said, you were born in Calcutta. So, tell us about how you entered this profession because today hospitality is a very, very sought after profession for a lot of women, a lot of single women. And when you started, I think I was telling you, being an air hostess and being a hotelier was, for women, it was
Yeah.
sort of looked down upon. But we've come 360 degrees since then, Rakhee. So take us through your journey.
So, not by design or anything that I got into hospitality. I happened to do, I was in Bangalore, obviously, as you know, for many years. I did my internship at the Taj MG Road, which is now MG Road, used to be called Residency. And
Hmm.
and that was possibly one of the first times I'd entered that hotel. And I found the whole environment and everything very energizing and something that I felt I could relate to. And
Hmm.
so that's how I sort of applied for hotel school and finished hotel management. Got into the Taj. Didn't think I'd last for 28 years that I completed this year. I thought, TK, I'll see how it goes. But I guess there was this sense of ambition. I had a very, very high level of ambition that I wanted to do something on my own, run the mill graduation, and then sort of, most people were doing around me. And like you said, following that, the stereotype path, which I really didn't want to be part of. So that it stemmed from there. And then
Hmm.
once I got into the Taj as a management trainee, interestingly, I did my bachelor's in business. And of course, then I worked for many years in Bangalore, and that's how I met you. And I was region Greater South India for marketing communication. I mean, my bosses kept saying, come to Bombay, come to Bombay. And I felt like, okay, now I've got my cocoon in Bangalore. It's all very great. Why should I give it up? This was when I was, in my early 30s.
Hmm.
But late 30s, I realized that, I wanted to be I wanted to play a more strategic role in this company. I felt I could give more. And being in Bangalore, I don't think I could have controlled. And then monotony sets in, and that's the
Hmm.
worst thing that can happen. And I'm always sort of thirsting to do, learn more, do more. And that's when I accepted the Bombay offer, Shree, and I moved to Bombay in 2010, late 2009. After 2611 happened in 2008, I was also called to Bombay to help out with the
Hmm.
recovery process. And I got a glimpse into life in Bombay, the action there is, the fact that, you are somebody who can play a very important role in the change that you
Hmm.
perhaps want to see, because, then you're in that, you're in the right place, that where you can make things happen. And that's when I realized that this is very difficult move, because I was literally moving from small town Bangalore, little while, to a different culture, being exposed to various kinds of situations at the industry has gone through. In a different culture. But 10 years hence, it's 2020 and I finished 10 years. I really think that I've grown both as a professional and as a person, being exposed to various kinds of circumstances, various kinds of situations that the industry has gone through. Indian
Hmm.
Hotels has gone through. 2611, of course, was possibly one of the worst. But then I didn't think there could be anything worse. But then COVID happened,
COVID.
which has been also very, very tough on the industry. So the learning has been immense. And I have moved roles. I started off in operations, moved on to sales and marketing of Karnataka and the region, then communications, and I've stayed on in communications because I feel that's what I enjoy the most, and that's where I find that I can actually sort of, use my capabilities to the maximum. So that's my journey in short, Shri, in terms of how I got in and where I am now.
Rakhi, do you think that, you mentioned about how the industry changed after the 26/11 attacks? I think the Taj Mahal
Yeah.
Hotel was at the epicenter of the terrorist attacks, which stunned, shocked,
Yes.
and I think deeply devastated our nation. We shall never forget that day.
That's
We
right.
shall never forget. You went
Yeah.
to Bombay in the aftermath of this terrifically, how do I say, dark, bleak moment in the history of the nation. And coming from a
True.
place like Bangalore, Taj Westend, which is, a beautiful property, but it was a set thing. You were already, at the top of your game. From there, moving to an extremely competitive environment in Mumbai, how was the transition for you, Raki, from the Bangalore girl to the, to the fast-paced Mumbai girl? How was that?
It was very tough. I have to be honest. The first year, I spent many nights just crying, breaking down, because I didn't know whether I'd made the right decision. And exactly like you put it, I left this comfort zone and, being the queen over there, having sort of
Mm,
established myself after many years. Um, and, sort of from that environment to Bombay where nobody cared what I had
yeah.
done in the past. You were, and that's how life is. You're as good as your last achievement. And, and I had to prove myself all over again, which was challenging. But and in hindsight, great because it taught me so much more. As a
Mm,
city, Bombay is it's a myth that everybody says, you know what, if you're single, go to Bombay. But I think if you're young and single, Bombay is a great place. I move in
mm,
my late 30s, and to make
mm,
friends at that age, Shri, is
mm.
not easy because you're
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
set in your ways. You don't want to just be random and choose because Bombay people don't have time. Like any big city, I'm sure Calcutta also, but maybe less than Bombay.
Mm,
Everybody's got their own life, their own friends, their families, and therefore they don't take you in because it's a small city, small town. Everyone knows everyone. It's like that from there to come here where nobody was really interested in taking me into their circles. I was lonely. I was lonely. I
mm,
was finding it daunting. It was the job was tough. There were many people who sort of resented my coming to Bombay,
mm, mm,
and it wasn't easy. So it
mm,
took a lot of work. It took a complete mind shift. I had to say to myself, okay, now I've accepted it. I'm not going to give up so easily. And
mm,
step by step, and that's how I've always been, Shri, is that I compartmentalize everything. And I find for me, everything is solution oriented. If I don't have a
mm,
solution in my head, um, I can go crazy. So I said, now dissect it. What is bothering me? I'm lonely. Maybe I should make an effort. The others are too busy to make an effort. And maybe, if I were them, I wouldn't make the effort. So I
mm.
started to make friends, and you know how single people get drawn to single people because then
Yeah.
you have similar sort of at least the kind of time that you can spare to be with each other
Mm,
is more than a couple or a family because they have other priorities. So I found
mm,
a couple of really cool young lovely women, working women.
mm,
So and then I sort of slowly started getting to like Bombay. Like they say, unless you start liking Bombay, Bombay's not going to like you. And
mm,
I made an effort. Even with work, I started obviously putting in more hours, and that's something I still continue to do because, yes, it is very, very competitive. But
mm,
then it becomes, then it's, then you're no longer in the resentment mode, you're in accepting mode and moving forward mode. And
mm,
that's how I think things started to get better and better. And today, like when you ask me, will you move back to Bangalore? I'm like, I don't think so because now I really
mm.
love the city. And then in
Yeah,
the first year, Shree, I used to every other weekend I was running to Bangalore to meet my friends, and
Bangalore.
because I was so lonely.
Mm,
And my parents shifted with me, and my mom and my father, who were my dad must have been like late 70s, mom in her mid 70s. Imagine at that age to uproot themselves from
mm,
Bangalore to move with me, but they said, no, 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 we need to be with you. And they moved
mm.
too, and that was also added stress for me because I needed to ensure that mentally they were also comfortable and they were
Correct,
not getting as daunted
correct.
as I was. So I was taking
Yeah.
on that stress and my own stress, and it was tough. It was tough. Maybe it took me a year to really, kind of work everything out and reach
Mm,
a level of some stability.
mm. I remember you mentioned something very interesting to me, Rakhi, and for me to have you on this show today, you know all the reasons why it was so important. But one of
Yeah,
the things are that single women face a lot of singleism at the workplace, especially corporate India, which displays so much of liberal attitude, a very woke culture when it comes to, say, the LGBTQI community, or even, to a certain extent, does a lot for women's empowerment. But when it comes to single women, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of ageism. It's very difficult for women to get back into the workforce after a hiatus, say the dissolution of a marriage, or a woman's just taken a break to maybe have a child, adopt a child, have a child through IVF. And the other thing is a lot of the politics against women is by women. You had once, I remember, told me that Shree, I faced greater roadblocks, in climbing up the corporate ladder from my own sex. Women have made it harder. So if you can just tell us some of your experiences, Rakhi, because you're really at the top of your game. And I know a lot of people are watching because I'm getting questions for you as we speak. So I'll pose them to you later. But if you can just sort of take us through the journey, if you ever faced I mean, of course, being a Tata Group company, I know
sure.
the culture is very clean. But, is it harder for women to succeed?
Yeah,
And are women
yes.
women's worst enemies at times?
Yeah. So I have to say that the Tata culture is absolutely amazing, and they've always believed in equal and fair opportunity. I think they're today the biggest advocates for gender diversity, uh,
Mm,
any kind of diversity for that matter. So the culture is what is the reason that I'm still here 28 years from when I started. When I actually thought that I won't last even a year or two. So, but there will always be a difference in the world, whether it's partners or various stakeholders. There definitely were instances when I felt that actually the men who were supportive, and it was women who couldn't handle to see another woman on the rise or being successful because I think it became a question of even today in terms of senior leadership. There are maybe just 8 to 10 of us who've reached the top level in the company, and there could be a lot more because of so many reasons. Like you said, they just drop off by the time they reach middle management level because of family pressures, children, because their husbands are moving cities and getting transferred and getting their promotions. That's always been a priority. So therefore, the number of people at the senior level becomes much less, and which also more competition, which is unnecessary, because I've always believed, and that's the way I have lived my life and my careers, because I feel that we need to lift each other. We need to encourage each other. There are far more examples that we are setting and actually being role models for other women. I found it very disconcerting that it was women who were trying to bring women down, when actually I believed in, really sort of being a support and being there for women. So that was quite touching. But then again, life teaches you how to cope, how to deal with it, how to shut out some of these negative elements, shut out the noise around you, and just keep focusing on doing what you love. And much as a lot of people will tell me, no, Rakhi, it's just not good work. It's about politics. It's about being there at the right place, right time. I believe it's hard work. It's just hard work pays, and just stay focused. The minute you start to feel like, okay, you're the victim and this is happening to you, and it's really all just because I'm a woman and all of that, things do get tough, and that plays obviously on your on your the way you behave and the way you sort of approach your work and your productivity and all of those things. And I feel like I was able to shut it out. And yes, it does exist. It existed then, it exists now as well. But you have to deal with it, and you have to rise above and learn to move forward.
Right. I was recently watching this very endearing web show on Netflix called Emily in Paris. Clearly, it's for a young adult audience.
Yes.
Very briefly, it's by the same creator Darren Star, who made Sex and the City. So it's got that
Sex and the
vibe,
City.
It's a
Yeah,
happy, yeah. So Darren Star
correct.
makes these
I love
happy,
it. I
fluffy.
watched it.
Yeah, I love it too. I love it too. But there,
Yeah.
Raki, also, if you see, they show the same thing. It's a young
Yeah.
woman who is recently single. She breaks up with her boyfriend on the eve of her, before.
Correct.
I mean, she's getting transferred to Paris. And when she
Yeah.
enters an office in Paris, though she's extremely qualified, she has been sent by the American head office, but there's a resistance to her. They don't
Right.
accept her.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're saying, and
Correct.
she's lonely until and unless she goes out
Yeah.
of her way, and she makes friends with people, because the French are a little cold, and being an American, she's very
Yeah.
exuberant. Tell us about the loneliness, Rakhi,
It's
of being a
absolutely
single
right.
woman in a city. Even in a city like Bombay, I know that there is a lot of housing
Yeah. Well,
discrimination. uh,
yeah, I could
so
relate
tell
to
us about that.
that. I could relate to little Emily, and of course, I wanted to be 25 again and go back to Paris, a city I absolutely love. Yes, it is. It is. It is lonely, and and like people sort of just tend to sort of stereo cast you as somebody who's you know you're just fiercely ambitious, and you're a certain type and you're aggressive, and all of those things that come with people's perception about singlehood status. And I just don't know. I mean, it's just so sad that people don't realize that whether you're single at the end of the day, or whether you're single or married, how does that matter? So of
Exactly.
course, to be honest, I think Bombay is a little bit better, in terms of the way they perceive women than smaller towns, because there are many more single people in the city. Because they're leaving their towns to pursue their dreams and ambitions. So you do find a lot of more single women, and not many single men, to be surprising. Many, many single women. So therefore, you
Right.
do find you're trying to really make friends. It wasn't easy because again, people said, either they didn't have the time, or it was a lonely period, and I would just do things on my own. And I said, okay, let me discover Bombay on my own. But how long can you do that? You do need, we're all, I mean, lockdown has made us realize how one misses social interactions. So for me, that was the same time when it was very similar to this time, where I felt very, very lonely and lost sometimes as to, whether I should go to Bangalore and just have, because that was an equally important element. But like I said, because I made the effort, both at work and at home, I mean, personally, I was able to overcome that loneliness and start, meeting a few people, and then from there on, meeting more people. And of course, now I have not such a large circle, but I still have very meaningful friendships, which I cherish.
Mm.
And but it's been a journey to reach there. It has been work.
Right, right. My next question is about your parents, because our journey in a sense is very similar, Rakhi, because I actually left
Yeah.
Calcutta 10 days after my master's examination, and I went to Delhi with my first job in the Asian Age as a journalist, and my parents followed soon.
Yeah.
So, uprooting my mother, who was a working woman, she was a very well established teacher in a reputed school in Kolkata. My dad, of course, just took a transfer, but it was a bigger role. So the family also transitioned along with me. And somewhere, everywhere that I went, perhaps because I'm an only child, of course, I did live alone in Bombay, I did live alone in Delhi, but eventually the family always moved where I was. I was really the epicenter of their existence, so to speak. And we always, apart from a few years, we've lived together. Now, as a single woman, I think the onus, the emotional, the physical, sometimes even the financial, the medical onus, of caregiving is a huge responsibility. Giving company to your parents, being in a sense like a buffer between them all the time, being a part
Yeah.
of each and every decision of their life, every happening of their life, along with balancing your own journey, your professional, your personal, your heartbreaks, your loneliness, your disappointment at work, your pressure at work, is this constant thing that you are part of a larger unit. As grown women who live with our families, how was that period of transition, Rakhi? And do you think caregiving is often a very neglected subject where women are concerned, especially women who are single?
Yeah, sorry, you're breaking out and in, so I lost the last bit of your question. Can you just repeat that for me?
Yeah,
Just
so
the
I
last
wanted
bit.
to know,
I
yeah, yeah. So I wanted to know about caregiving, if it is a neglected area for women, if women really don't get enough credit as primary caregivers, especially if you're single, because it's almost taken for granted, right? That, oh, you're single, so either your parents will come and stay with you or you'll be staying with your parents.
Yeah, yes. Um, that's the mindset that I wish it could change, where they realize that it's just because you're single doesn't mean you don't have a life.
Hmm.
Um, and the entire responsibility of caregiving was it did rest on my shoulders. In my situation it's very different, uh, because my brother, there were only two of us, and my brother was diagnosed with brain tumor 6 years ago in 2014, when I had already moved to Bombay. And this was in January, I remember, and we were absolutely shocked. We were told that there's very little time. And that's when my parents decided to move to Bangalore, to be with him during that time. But I lost my father very quickly. Uh, I don't think he could take the grief of having, to see his son suffer the way he was, and he's still suffering. I look after him today. He's with me. Um, and then I became the primary um, because both of them moved with me back to Bombay, and then a little later my brother moved with me. And even when he was in Bangalore, I would be flying up and down to ensure that he was getting his chemotherapies and his doctor's visits and his scans and all of that. So I was there for all of it all the time. And at the same time, looking after my old parents. Like I said, then I lost dad and mom moved back with me. And of course, having to make sure that I had to make sure that do it well, and manage my personal life. So it was, and there were times when I just wanted to say, okay, now enough is enough. I'm running away. And then I used to remember that if I run away, my problems aren't running away. I have to go, I'm running away with my problems. So take it head on. And one thing at a time, let's deal with the situation on hand. And the priority was my brother's health because he's young. I mean, today he's only uh, 56, and he's but at that time when I felt there was hope and that he had a whole life ahead of him, I did everything I could to ensure that he was treatment, because that was really the most important to me, and I just continued to do it. Um, and what has been amazing because you're doing it, then my mother, who's been a rock star, and she's 85 today and still very strong mentally and physically. Of course, she's also gone through her own share of ailments. Um, but she just starts thinking, okay, Rakhee can look after herself, and I do feel that sometimes that now the entire burden is on me,
Yeah.
and I have no one to share this with. Of course, I mean, in my situation, really hard, but it is overwhelming. And yes, we're taken for granted. And I see people around me. I have so many of my friends who have siblings, brothers abroad, working, etc. But it's okay. They are at home, so they're alone. They don't have a family, so they look after our parents. There's no question about it. It's only now I feel that some people are pushing back, and rightfully so, where they're saying that it should be equitable. I mean, I'm contribute to the share because unless we spend or invest in ourselves and have that time to ourselves doing what we like to do, whatever it is, whether it's pursuing a hobby or traveling or whatever it is, unless you're able to renew your own energy, you'll be of no use. You'd be irritable, and you're not going to give your best to your parents. So that's important to realize that. And I think women are pushing back now, and I'm glad that it's happening. But it's not enough. People are still being taken for granted, like you very correctly said. It's a role that is assumed. Once you're alone, you don't have a family. What is your responsibility? What is the big deal? And women are constantly feeling guilty, even if they're pushing back, just continuing the way things were, which is such a pity. And I need time that there is more equitable contributions made by people. It just has to change. It's very unfortunate the way women are treated, the perception people have of single people, and that really needs to change. I think my mother does feel that what she feels she can, she's helpless, because I do tell her sometimes, like, I'm in a trap, I want to do this and I want to do that and I can't. She says, what do we do? And the answer, I don't have the answer to this one, so I just go back to doing it. But the ones who have a choice, I think, should really push back and and do things for themselves as well. You cannot forget yourself in this journey. You're as
Hmm.
important, and that's critical to realize.
That's very true. Recently we had a Supreme Court judgment, which even said that, married women have to also shoulder the responsibility of their
Yeah,
aging and ailing parents. You can't just dump the care of your old parents on an unmarried sibling. But Rakhi, your case is so exceptional
yeah,
because I have women in my community who, after separation or divorce, have sometimes, gone back to stay with their brothers. And some of the brothers have been absolute pillars to these women, supported them, helped them find their feet, get back to work, sometimes nursed them through periods of bad health, depression, put their children into school, even helped them financially to start a business. But in your case, Rakhi, you are literally the man of the family. Though, again, I'm using that as a pun. I'm using that
yeah,
deliberately. You're really like the man of the house because who's there
yeah,
now? I mean, with your father gone, your
yeah.
mother aging, your brother is absolutely, in a sense, he's suffering from a terminal ailment. He's under palliative care. So who else is there? You are the person on
True.
whom everything has been thrust. So, are there
Yes.
moments, Raki, when you feel like it's just too much? And do you therefore feel that a community for single women is what is the road forward? We need a community of emotional support, a community of caregiving for each other as women. As you say, women have to lift up women.
Yes, definitely. Like I said, it's gets too hard. It's very daunting, not to be able to share the responsibility. Sometimes we all need a break. We all need to get away. And if there was a community that is, definitely more supportive of each other and helpful of each other, during times like this, I think it would be terrific. I'm
Hmm.
blessed. I do have some really good friends who I can count on. I have some family members I can count on. Shree, I think we need to, until we make that fundamental shift of not feeling guilty all the time, or not
Hmm.
feeling like, okay, this is all my responsibility, even though I have a support network and I'm blessed to have people, or if, there are more women who'll come forward to help me. I need to change the way I think. And I need to say, okay, listen, I'm doing my best I can. I've really given my best. I need
Hmm.
that time off. And now let
Hmm.
somebody take over. And what
Yeah.
will happen? Ek do din, they'll struggle. Uske baad, everyone gets used to it, and then people adapt very quickly. The human mind is such. I mean, look at the way we've
Hmm.
all adapted to lockdown, for instance. If somebody
Yeah.
had told
Yeah.
us, will you've been locked down for 7 months, you would have said, are you mad? I'll go mental, I'll go mad. But we're all finding our coping mechanisms. So
Yeah.
I think it starts with a fundamental shift with the way you think. A support can only do that much, and a support will be great. And someone like you giving us a platform to talk to people, to so that everyone kind of really hears these examples and these instances where they feel, okay, we too can have the strength to overcome these issues and ebbs and flows of life, is important. But the fundamental mind shift is that you need to stop feeling like, oh my God, it all rests with me. And that's going to drain you out completely.
Hmm.
You're going to be
Hmm.
of no use to yourself, to your family, unless you start feeling lighter and start working on your mind. So yes, I'm it's not like I'm there and I'm sort of, happily preaching about it and not practicing it. But yes, I'm working on my mind to feel like, okay, there are days when I need to get out. I'll have a nurse.
Right.
I need to get out. I can't do it now because of the situation we're in. But I did that last December. I went off to London and Paris for a few days because I needed a break. And when we talk about my cancer journey, I'll tell you that I was meant to go on a holiday to London, and it did happen because I discovered that I had breast cancer. And so therefore it stayed in my mind saying, as soon as I'm well, I have to celebrate, this milestone of overcoming. I mean, I'm still going through some treatment, but at least it's, one hurdle and I need to celebrate it. So I went last year and I said, I put my foot down. I said, I'm going. And I took that uh, week's break, which was so rejuvenating. And then you come back recharged and you come back with renewed strength and energy, which is what we all need as human beings. And
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah.
do that for ourselves. No one's
Yeah.
going to tell you. No one's going
Yeah.
to tell you, listen, now, now you take a break. Or now this
Yeah.
is enough, you do this for yourself. You have a hobby, you have a dream, pursue it, live it. Don't depend on something to happen or some other person to kind of help you or give you support to to reach a certain situation or whatever. That doesn't happen. It rests with you. You can change
Yeah.
whatever is, I mean, it's in your control. That's what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
not in someone else's control. Neither is it external.
Right. Raki, you mentioned such an important point. My next question would be, a lot of our audience doesn't know your entire journey. Um, and you spoke about self love and the importance of self care. Um, I know for a fact that when you were detected with breast cancer, it came as a shock for you, and like any primary caregiver, because I am also a primary caregiver, you're almost like an only child now. I mean, taking care of two ailing, or at least one aging, one ailing person. In my case, it's my parents and my sister. But your first thought was, what's going to happen to them? Who's going to take care of my brother? Who is going to take care of my mom if something were to happen to me? Tell us, because breast cancer today has become so common. I had a sebaceous cyst 2 years ago, which was suddenly detected, and it was very painful. It had become pus filled, and I went through almost 8 months of very, very severe antibiotics. There were a lot of side effects, but luckily, of course, it was non malignant, but I didn't have to undergo any surgery. So, in your case, tell us about how did you detect, how did you find out about your cancer? And if you can take us through that very tumultuous phase in your life, which really tested your perseverance and your inner strength.
So yeah, this was in 2018 when, like I was telling you, I was all set to go on a holiday after, grueling working hours and all of that. Very excited to take a break. And just quite by accident, a week before when, I was supposed to leave, I I saw, a little bit of dimpling on my left breast, above my
Hmm.
left breast. Um, and I was like, this is weird. And I don't even know how I noticed it, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
And then I did a self examination and I found a lump. And I said, there's something that's not feeling right. And I honestly, I haven't been doing any of these self examinations or
Hmm.
my mammograms regularly. And I do want to talk about that, and which is the reason that I started to talk about my cancer journey, really. And so I felt a lump, and I said, oh no, it doesn't seem right. And I
Hmm.
went to work. I didn't tell my mother about it. And I went, that time my brother was still in Bangalore, and I used to go every other weekend, or I used to work out of Bangalore for a few days and come back. So I was constantly traveling in and out, in and out. He was in hospital a lot because he had had a stroke,
Hmm.
and there were lots of issues with him. So I went to work that morning. I didn't tell my mother, and I said, forget it. I'm just going on my holiday. And something, I said, no, I'll go on my holiday. I'll do this later. I'll deal with this stress later. But I couldn't go through the day. I said, I can't be stupid. I mean, it's going to play on my mind irrespective. Get it out of the
Hmm.
way. So Shreya went to the gynecologist, had fixed a appointment, and she did a check, and she said, do a mammo. I said, oh, what's wrong? She didn't say anything. She said, just do a mammo. So I did the mammo, and after that they said, no, we need to do a sono mammo. And I said, okay, let's do it. And they said, no, 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 come back for it. So I said, okay, but what's happening? Can someone tell me? No, 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 we can't tell you because they don't, I guess they're not allowed to tell you. I knew something was wrong because otherwise they'd tell you nothing to worry, right? So I called a friend of mine and I said, will you come with me? I'm a little nervous. And she said, she came with me. And we did the sono mammo, and this radiologist was like poker faced. And so I said, what's going on? Like, what is it? She says, yeah, it's malignant. That's the way she told me. Rings in my head the way she said it, just like that. And I said, what? There must be a mistake. And she said, no, 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 it's true. What do you mean? It's okay. Don't worry, nothing to worry. So I said, no, but it's not true. It can't be true because, and my mom had just gone through lymphoma, which is
Mm.
lymphoma non-Hodgkin's. It's also a kind of stomach cancer. And my brother was going through this very, very terminal illness, disbelief, and she was it. So my friend, when I came out and I was in shock, and she said, let's go to someone else. And we went to another gynac. And I think that gynac handled it much better, or the radiologist there handled it much better and said, listen, even though you'll have to do a biopsy, but there is a treatment. And guess what? You've got the best cancer you can ask for. And that's how doctors talk to you, right? Because
Yeah,
breast
yeah.
cancer is treatable as opposed to so many other cancers. And I said, how can they be saying it's good news? I mean, my whole life I felt was falling apart when I was told this. It was just too much. And I think my shock was more because I wasn't even thinking about myself.
Mm.
And it obviously took me a while. And then I spoke to my brother's oncologist, who's an absolute gem, who's now with Apollo. He was with the Tata Medical Center in Bombay, with Tata Memorial, which is, as we all know, a revered medical institution. And he guided me and said, it's happened, it's happened. This is a cancer that's treatable. Let's focus on the treatment. And I obviously had no choice at that point but to accept it. This was on day one or day two of finding out. And I broke it to my mother very gently, saying, Mama, nothing to worry. It's because I had spoken to like doctors and oncologists by then, and that's when I broke it to her because she would also crumble, right? Because knowing that my daughter's going through this,
Mm.
her me. But I didn't need to worry. It's all fine. They're just going through chemotherapy. That's what they had said. That at that point, I didn't need chemotherapy or any just breast conservation surgery or a lumpectomy, where they removed the lump. So I said, let's do the surgery. And when I was doing the surgery, the doctor found out that it had spread. PT scan and all the other scans that I did, they couldn't deter because maybe it wasn't visible. And the doctor had to take a call to act. It had spread, and I was recovering from surgery in the recovery room, and I went back to the room. And he told me, I'm sorry, but you'll have to go through chemotherapy and radiation because now it's stage 3.
Mm.
uh, and that's when I obviously broke down because nobody wants to go through chemotherapy. We know how tough that is. And again,
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about, my how I rationalized everything. And of course, I was in shock. Oh my God, chemotherapy. Oh my God, my hair's going to go. Oh my God, this is really bad. That's your instant reaction. I couldn't sleep. I must have cried all night. And then again, I got up in the morning and said, what am I worried about? The chemo. I mean, they're telling me it's treatable. So what? I mean, and they're all saying at the end of the day now, with advanced chemo, they give you medicines for all the side effects. So they'll deal with it. I'm in the best hands that I could ask for. I'm blessed and fortunate enough to be in good hospitals, being treated by fabulous doctors. What am I worried about? My hair? Come on, it'll give you style, not to have any hair or I'll do something. And like I said, I've always worked approach to everything. Okay, now I'm happy to have with it. That I could have prevented all of this. If I was you lie, behind intuition and all of that is not great. It ravages your body, and of course, and it can all be prevented if you just responsible. And it's people just shove it down your throat.
Ah, I think we'll have to bear with a little bit of delay. Rakhi's got very, very bad connectivity today for some reason in Bombay. But I think as we try to reconnect with her, um, I just feel that, this message that Rakhi is trying to give out is so important because women rarely take care of themselves. When I had my
I'm sorry, the network went off.
yeah, the network is bad. Do you want to turn off your camera? Do you think that would help for a while?
Sure. Well, let me
Because
try.
I want people to
Switch
listen
to
to you.
StreamYard.
You're saying such important things.
Right. Uh, so, yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, Rakhi.
Okay. So, like I said, I feel very strongly about, the fact that I wish more and more women in their 40s would take responsibility for their health and go for regular checkups. Either do a
Hmm.
self-examination, every few months, and definitely fix that mammo. I believe once a year is what most doctors will tell you is fine to go with, because that you can't have too much radiation. But if I had gone, even like 2 years ago for a mammo, I don't think I would have reached the situation. They would have been able to detect it, and I could have possibly just had a surgery and be done with it. But anyway, I had to accept what I had and deal with it. So after my surgery, when I got back, and it was not even 4 days after my surgery, my brother was admitted in ICU in Bangalore, and I
Oh
was
God.
called saying that you have to come. And obviously, it was possibly the worst time for me because I was obviously asked not to travel, having gone through a major surgery. But I had no choice. I had to travel. I had to travel with the drain on. It was connected to a drain so that the fluids would get drained out through my lymph nodes. And I went to Bangalore to be with my brother in ICU. I was there with him for a week, even though I was obviously in a pretty fragile state myself. And after that, I brought him back to Bombay, realizing that I can't do this Bangalore Bombay anymore, and he needs to be with me. So I brought him back, and then my chemo started. And simultaneously, my brother developed a series of lung infections and all kinds of other issues. So there were days when I had to go for my chemo, finish my chemo, and then go be with my brother because my mother couldn't handle interactions with doctors, because she said, I don't understand any of this. And she needed to take decisions and she couldn't. So I had to go back, meet the doctors, because he had a neurologist, he had a lung specialist, and because he's in such a fragile state with multiple issues, one had to deal with multiple doctors. And it was extremely trying, but I said, it's okay now, I have to do it. I did have friends who supported me. I did have relatives supporting me, but the decisions were left to me.
Yeah.
So the,
Yeah.
so that also is very draining. But of
Very
course,
draining.
I dealt with it. I also made it a point to continue working because I felt that, much unlike what everybody says, this is the big C and all of that, which, it can completely, it alters your life. It's life changing. It's life defining. It's how you see it. It can be life defining it if you let it define you. You need to take control of it, and it's a pause. And this pause has taught me so much, Shri. It's I'm not saying that one has to go through cancer to learn, and to go through adversity, to find opportunity and come out of it. But for me, it was an opportunity to reflect. I think I was functioning like a robot for way too long. Was functioning mechanically. I was just getting into one, it was very task oriented, finishing the task on hand at work, at home, and just, going on and on. Uh, this made me realize that life is actually, at the end of the day, finite. And what am I doing living my life like this? It's the one big reality that actually hits you when you go through, a life where, at the end of the day, life is going to come to an end. And how do you want to live it? So I had to recalibrate life, and I had to choose what I wanted to do. I had to also be very courageous and bold about choosing not what and also what not to do. Not to, sort of spend my energy in all the other things that I was possibly wasting my time on, or people that I was wasting my time on. And all this, I had to kind of, these realizations were, I think, just absolutely invaluable during this time. And because I continued to work, I celebrated each milestone. I finished every time I finished a certain milestone, whether it was three, when I finished 3 sessions of chemo, it was the halfway mark. Then when I, in between my radiation and chemo, I used to celebrate with my friends, because I realized the value of life a lot more. And I mean, even though I was physically maybe weak, I think I became mentally much stronger.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of my friends and people around me saying, I started to talk about, I was very open about the fact that I had breast cancer. Even when I wore my wig, I called my wig a wig. Like, people would say, my God, oh, you haven't lost your hair. I said, no, it's a wig, it's, and I used to, initially, I was not very happy wearing a wig because it looks different. You don't look the same. I never wore the wig at home. I obviously wore it only when I went out or went to work. Um, and then I said, okay, listen, I'll make this a style statement. So I used to wear different kinds of bandanas and different kinds of hairbands to cover that, not to make it too wiggy look. Because the important part of this is not because you must wear a wig. What's important is that you must feel good about yourself. And
Yeah.
for me, turning out well, feeling good about myself was also important. And I dealt with it. And it was, I felt cool. I looked different. I looked like some freak show sometimes, very bohemian. But I was okay about it. And that's a big part, of the whole cancer journey, is to deal with your physicality. You don't look the same anymore.
Yeah.
And that bothers women, as you know. But there is a way to deal with it. And like, coming back to the reason that I wanted to talk about it, is when I was going through my chemotherapy, I found that, so many women, when I was in my when we were in this common room where a lot of other women were also um, getting their chemo done,
Mm.
most of them were not able to talk about what they were going through and their cancer with either their in-laws or their immediate relatives,
Mm.
alone, hiding it. So I said, that's ridiculous. First, you're
Mm.
dealing with, stress.
Mm.
And then you want to add to this by hiding the fact that you're going through something like this. Don't you need to talk about it and be open? Said, no, no, you don't understand in our community. And how? Because it is still stigmatized.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's when I said it's ridiculous. We don't need it. And I remember this
Mm.
out at home because she was too scared her in-laws would find out. She started getting
Mm.
extensions, and she was so obsessed with this whole process of looking the same so that nobody could find out. I
Yeah.
found that quite sad actually. And I said to
Mm.
myself, women need to accept it. You need to go out there and tell people, it's fine. You didn't choose it.
Rakhi, yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't choose
And
the fact
this is a very,
that
very important
you
point
wanted to have this
because,
cancer. It's
when I went to my oncologist, who's now a good friend of mine, she would tell me stories of women. A lot of them were from Bangladesh. They come to Calcutta for treatment, who would be abandoned by their husbands, in-laws, even sometimes grown sons after the mastectomy and after the chemo.
yeah,
The first chemo, they would just be abandoned. And here's what I find so strange. See, so much of our self worth,
yeah,
Rakhi, is dependent on the way we look, and so much so that modern urban women, in fact, my oncologist had actually reprimanded me. She said, Shrimoy, you're turning 40, you're having a big party at the Lalit, you're celebrating it like a wedding, you're talking about breaking, this stigma about being 40 and single. But why haven't you had a complete health checkup? you know
yeah.
that should be part of your celebration is not just coloring your hair and going for a holiday and drinking. Of course those
Such a
things
good
are
point.
important. Yeah, she said, why don't women when they're turning 40 go in for a complete health checkup? Today there's a vaccine for even cervical cancer, which is the second largest cancer which kills women
Correct.
after breast
Correct.
cancer, and then bone cancer. Because we this is what I find so strange, Raki. We spend thousands on lingerie. We
Yeah.
buy Victoria's Secret when we are traveling. We are actually obsessed with our breasts, and of course,
Yeah.
men love it. I mean, that's a woman. I mean, I've interviewed women who are not well endowed. To use the term, they are flat chested, and those women have told me, Shrimoy, we wish we had, and I'm always complaining about my breasts because I keep saying that, oh, bongs, we are top heavy. I wish, I was not, so buxom. And these women have told me, Shrimoy, men have rejected us because we don't have we don't have an ample bosom. And with
Yeah.
all that, I just feel our self worth is so fragile that today a woman who has breast cancer, my oncologist has told me horror stories where she is literally bleeding, there's pain, there's pus formation. She has hidden it for almost 2-3 years because she's so scared that mera breast chala jayega and my beauty will go and my husband will take another woman and chuck me out of the house.
Yeah.
Why do you think Rakhi? I mean, this is something that Rakhi's connection is very bad. I'm hoping she'll come back again. But actually, this is something that I personally feel very strongly about that. why is our self-worth so brittle? And I have, I know a lot of single women who have had breast cancer, who are courageous, who are so strong. They've gone for their chemotherapies, they have driven themselves to the hospital. They have, as you're saying, Rakhi, flaunted it. You've not hidden it. You've spoken about
Yeah.
breast cancer, you've talked about losing hair. But why do you think, our self-worth is so fragile that we neglect ourselves? We are taking care of everybody around us, but we don't give enough time for a pap smear or a mammogram. Why do we do that?
Yeah, it's I don't understand it. I mean, because I've also been, equally responsible for it. I don't,
Hmm.
it's again to do with self-worth, self-care.
Yeah.
We just don't think we're important enough in the whole scheme of things. It's my family that's
Hmm.
important, my child that's more important, or the husband, or the in-laws, or my parents. It's always about someone else. It's very little about me. And that's what we need to change. Why? I mean, and this is just conditioning, because our mothers were like that, our grandmothers were like that,
Yeah.
and that's how it's
Yeah.
kind of carrying on. This is one
Yeah.
tradition that we need to
Hmm.
break, and it has
Hmm.
to start with us. It has to start now. And it's really people like you who can sort of make people realize and create that awareness that you
Hmm.
need to start being responsible for yourself as well. Make time for
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm.
Happiness is not going to come with just, I mean, of course, be a giver. I'm saying it's great to give. There is a joy that one gets out of giving, but give to yourself. Give back to yourself, because you need to enrich your own soul. And that's one thing which I just couldn't deal with when I used to see all these women, and I used to tell them, saying, what is wrong? Why can't you tell your in-laws? Why can't you tell your friends or your relatives? What is the issue? I mean, they may sort of say things, but get it out of your chest. Why you sort of playing
Hmm.
victim to it? Why you sort of playing victim to it and look a certain way and pretend? I mean, it's just too much hard work. And it's stress that you don't need right now. And it's stress that you don't need right now. And I would talk to all these people, and they would say, "You're very bold. You're walking around like this." I wouldn't obviously wear my wig to hospital. I'm one person who only actually bothers my hair. I've been very hard. But when you go through chemo and you're feeling like shit, um, your hair doesn't matter.
Hmm.
You just want to get your health back in order, and you're grateful to God that there is a treatment and there is a cure, and your hair will come back. Where will it go? It will come back when you're fine. And that's immediately after that, because I have the opportunity and I have friends like you in journalism. I said, let me talk about my story, because I do want to motivate women to, just be themselves.
Yeah.
And
And,
not
I
be
think,
shy of,
yeah, Rakhi, yeah, one more
just
point
being
is
themselves. Just
we're
talk about what you're
always
going through.
trying,
Tribulations or no,
yeah,
you're
talk
human.
about it, talk
You're
about
not
it.
meant to be some superwoman all the time.
And also, I mean, I've interviewed single women who were engaged when their breast cancer was detected. And of course, the man has abandoned them, and the marriage has broken off. Or women who were married with children who, once they were detected with terminal, sometimes it is terminal. You were blessed, I think, that you had good doctors and it was detected, because it's all about the time when it is detected. So, many times when the matters turn serious and there's, multiple operations, when you have to have a hysterectomy after your mastectomy, the men have abandoned these women.
Yeah.
So that is also the reality, Rakhi, that there is no support system for women. The government does nothing. The government really does nothing. Women
Yeah.
will support women, as we've seen. And let me tell you, you mentioned a very important point about this being ascribed to our conditioning. My sister, who's 11, just started her period. And, I've been very sort of, mollycoddling her, and all of us have been trying to, ensure that she's not in too much pain, because it's her first time. So it is distressing for an 11-year-old child. But my mother's reaction to it is almost like very militant. She's like, so what if you have your periods? I never complained. I never stopped working for a single day. What all I did, with my period, I used to go to school, I used to teach. So, I just feel this, and I know that there are women watching who've experienced terminal illness either themselves or in their families, that at the end of the day, women complaining about physical pain, we don't have a safe space for that, because immediately we will be shut down by some woman in our own family who will tell us that, I mean, come on, you've been born as a woman, so it's your literally your dharma to suffer pain, and you need to have stronger endurance. You're born a woman, you have your periods today, tomorrow you'll have to give birth to one or two children, maybe 10 children. You'll have to take care of your ghar, sansar, grihasti. So women, I feel, Rakhi, one of the reasons why women don't go for these tests is, one, this Bharat Mata self-sacrificial attitude, which we have inherited from our mothers and grandmothers and aunts, that we always have to put ourselves last. A woman sitting down and saying, boss, I can't, I'm in pain, I need help. Today, I can't serve you. I can't listen to you. I can't be interested or bothered about your problems, because today I am in pain. I'm PMSing, or I have a lump. I need to go to the doctor. I have a headache, a migraine, or generally
Yeah.
there's something in my body. There's no space for that, because we always have to be like machines with parts, which have to be functional, because everything depends on us. So I want to ask you, Raki, how did sort of did this episode bring you and your mother closer together? Did she see the kind of stress that you were going through, or were you the lone trooper even then? Multitasking between looking after your sick brother and taking
Yeah.
care of yourself. Raki, I'd request you to turn off your camera. We have very, very bad connectivity. But ladies who are watching, especially women from the community who are watching, please prioritize your health. I don't know, I mean, I think even if we repeat this once to ourselves every day, it's not enough. That we need to really take care of our mind and our body. Do whatever it takes. If you're feeling an abnormality, a heaviness in your breast, if there are self examination videos which you can and you should watch on YouTube, or consult your gynecologist, who might put you onto a breast health specialist who will teach you the way in which you can examine your breast. It's a simple examination with your hands. It's not that you need to subject yourself to a medical examination. So you can do it yourself in the shower, in the privacy of your own bedroom or bathroom. It is critical that you go, especially after 30. Women have to go for breast examinations. They have to go for regular pap smears. I've had pap smears. It's a myth that, oh my God, a pap smear is extremely painful. A pap smear is a 1 second procedure where, they just take, like, they scrape off some tissue, a vaginal tissue. It is, I mean, as women, we some of us have gone through a transvaginal ultrasound, which is probably more, it's a more painful probe, it's a deeper penetration than a pap smear. Breast examinations, you don't even today need to actually go somewhere and get a mammogram. For that, you need a doctor's prescription. You need to just go to YouTube or consult your gynecologist. And I think, this is the dichotomy, that we spend so much of money in buying, the best of lingerie, La Senza, Marks and Spencers, Triumph, Enamer. We want to, we are very conscious about our breasts sagging. We're very conscious about, the shape of our nipples. Can it be seen through a t-shirt? We are experimenting with imported lingerie. But when it comes to looking after our breasts, taking charge of our breast health, we somewhere falter. Rakhee, you're back. Uh, any do's and don'ts for women when they are going through this journey? And what are the things a woman should do to ensure breast health? Maybe you can turn off your video and try, Rakhee, if that helps us get a better audio. We're not able to hear you at all.
As you said regularly,
Rakhee, can you turn off your video, please? Perhaps your audio will be clearer then.
can you turned off? I've turned off. Still showing?
Okay, okay. I'll get Mitch to turn off the video.
Still, am I audible?
Yeah, but you're coming and going. There's a lot of disturbance, but carry on. I think we've lost her again. Very, very bad network. It's so unfortunate because this is such an important discussion, and we've, I think, never had this problem on StreamYard, but Rakhee seems to be facing, a real problem. We'll try for the last time with Rakhee. Um, Otherwise, perhaps we can put her on speaker. Rakhee, I'm probably just going to call you and put you on
Yeah.
speaker because this is absolutely inaudible, right? I'll call you and put you on speaker. I'm just calling you, just calling Rakhee. I think these are critical things which you need to hear. Hi, Rakhee.
Yeah, Shree, sorry about the technicals and the internet. I don't know why it's not supporting me today.
Yeah, very, very bad network. So, Rakhee, I've put you on speaker. This is better.
Sure.
And, so I wanted to ask you, Rakhee, because women are so negligent of their personal, intimate sexual health, not reproductive health, because, women are in this rat race to produce babies by a certain age, but we don't realize that we need to take care of ourselves. Whether or not we're single or married is irrelevant, and especially after 30. So, can you tell our listeners or our viewers, some do's and don'ts, which, some learnings along the way? And I'd be curious to know if this whole life changing journey brought you and your mother closer to understand each other as women.
So, yeah, so good question. So, the first part, I think we need to take responsibility of our body, and nothing like early detection. Early detection can prevent all this agonizing experiences that one has to go through. And I think after 30, 35, if you pay emphasis on your body, your health checkup, your self examination, which is like she said, is a very simple process. You can do it on your own. You just need to feel your breath with your, with your fingers. You can watch it on YouTube. And if you find something that's not feeling okay or suspicious, go to the gynae immediately. Otherwise, schedule that yearly appointments for your pap smear as well as your mammogram regularly. Please don't neglect this. You need to do that this earlier because you can take so much trouble if it's presented earlier, like I said. And even in my case, even if I have done this 2 years ago, I didn't have to go through chemotherapy and radiation. The thing not to do is that don't feel alone in this journey. Talk about it. You're not alone. Ask for help. It was against my grain the way I was brought up to ask for help. But when I went through this and I was diagnosed with cancer, knowing that I had so much on my plate, I asked my friends for help. I asked the other women for help. I asked my colleagues for help. And they were all more than willing to come and help. So don't feel like, oh my God, this is only your problem. It isn't. There are many people who are willing to help. Go out and ask for it. And talk about it. And don't worry about the rest of the stress, like I said, about people and society and what they will say and how they will react. It's absolutely fine. You talk about it and deal with it. It is much better than hiding and having to pretend that you don't have it. Those two things are very important. As far as the second part of the question, Shree, that brought me closer to my mother, I think so it is because she also realized how much I was going through. And we just literally had each other, to sort of cry on each other's shoulders, with all that we have a kind of venting person to vent with and talk about your woes. But at the same time, my mother is, in her mid-80s, and there's that much debt that she can cope with. So I still do go through my moments of loneliness. But then I remember I need to be grateful. I still have my mother who was there with my brothers 24/7, watching the nurses, watching over the staff. Because they can only do that much. The loving care that their own family can give you is very different. And she's doing that to my brother. I'm able to afford doctors. I'm able to afford, hospital care. I have amazing care. And I think once you realize that you have so much and you can be grateful for so much, you don't feel as distressed as you will if you start playing the victim card. And I think that's important. So yes, Mom and me have definitely become closer. She realizes what I go through. She does her best at her age to do that for me. But of course, like I said, she has limitations. She uses a walker. She's had an issue with her spine. She can't walk without the help of a walker. But even then, her mental strength is remarkable. And I think I draw some of that strength from her to be able to cope with life.
I think, Rakhee, this is such an important point that you've raised that, so much of our strength comes from our mothers who are troopers. Also, it's a generation which had a very hard life, As I said, today, there's so much of hoopla about self-love, self-care, solo vacations, spa vacations for girlfriends, girl tribes. I think our mothers grew up in a generation where they did not even have the vocabulary to revolt or to just put their hands up and say, I'm sorry, but this is my Lakshman Rekha, this is my threshold, I'm not going to go beyond this. So definitely, I'm sure while you draw your strength from your mother, this whole, I think as a family, what you three have gone through, your tryst with cancer, different forms of cancer, different degrees of suffering, pain, doctors, treatments, multi-city visits. I think it would have really brought you much closer as a family. So, Rakhee, I'll ask you my last question. I wish network was good, then we could have gone on for a little while longer. But, what I would really want to know is, as a single woman, I know we've discussed this, so I will end with this. You're in such a high profile job. you, according to me, you're one of the bravest women I have ever known. You carry your scars like an absolute armory. And I salute your strength, Rakhi. While talking to you, you said you were born in Calcutta. So it is reminding
Yeah.
me of, Ma Durga with her 10 hands. Because look at that. I mean, you're a head honcho supervising over 200 properties of the Taj Group. You have a brother who's bedridden, who's on palliative care, a mother who's in her mid 80s with a walker, obviously emotionally and probably physically dependent on you, and you're still going through your cancer treatment. I know last time when you were on the first season of Status Single with Shree, you were tense about getting your tests done, and of course
Yeah.
worried about results and all that. Do you
Yeah.
what do you get from people? Do you get pity? Do you get anxiety? Like, for instance, I always get this reaction that what will happen to you after your parents, because I'm the
Yeah.
only child, and now of course we foster a very young girl. My sister is only 11. So I'm often, it's not a threat, but I think it's a very passive aggressive tone that people take with me, that, oh, but what about your mother, what about your father? They are not there forever. How come you don't meet anyone? So what about you, Rakhi? I'm curious to know what are the kind of
Yeah.
responses you elicit, and how do you deal and navigate through all of that?
Yeah, well, it's similar. I get a lot of that as well, saying, so what happens if you're not there? Everything depends on you, and why haven't you found a partner? And I think, just finding a partner is going to be the solution to everything.
Yeah.
But it's just so embedded in people's minds that, oh, she's a single woman and, she should be really getting a partner. And or I get a lot of sympathy that, I don't know how to do it, and this is not right, and life is being so unfair on you, and
Hmm.
that kind of, sort of pity that one gets from people. And I regret that, because I think that, everyone has their own share of issues. It's how you deal with it. I mean,
Exactly.
you need to give me strength. You need to give me, as a friend, as somebody who's having a conversation with me, give me, encourage me rather than sort of bring me down with the negativity.
Yeah.
And I think as I grow older, I realized that I do not want to deal with this kind of negativity, and I choose who I have. I mean, I can't choose people I want to work with. That I need to do. I have no choice. But at least in my personal space, I can choose who my friends are. I can
Hmm.
choose who I want to be in contact even with my relatives. Just because someone is connected with me, because they're related, doesn't mean that they understand, or I have to keep that relationship going. So
Hmm.
I I think I'm now realizing that I have to start living life the way I want to. Happiness is not going to be in it doesn't depend on, oh, when my brother gets better, or when things get better, or when I find a partner. It starts with me here and now.
Hmm.
And that's how I'm living my life. And I sort of, I still love life. I still, I think there's so much to experience in life that is so beautiful, that I look forward to. And that's what keeps me going. And I shut out the negativity.
Hmm.
I shut out all this unnecessary noise around me. Um, and that's my coping mechanism, Shree. And and I have immense faith. The one thing that kept me going even through this whole journey, and of course with my brother, uh, there are many challenges because of the way his condition is my faith in God.
Hmm.
And when it gets all too much, I do surrender. I surrender to the Almighty, and I say, I can't find a solution. It's getting too much. You find a solution.
Hmm.
And answers do come. You just have to have the faith. Uh, and of course, you need to face things head on. You can't crumble. You can't just say, okay, now this is it. I can't do more. You need to face things head on. But
Hmm.
face it with positivity. Face it
Right.
with a word of God.
Right.
And that's really what I would like to leave. People watching the show and hearing in the show, and I apologize profusely for the connectivity. But that's what I want to leave everyone with is that, please stay positive. It's not the end of the world. It may be a pause. There's life is not without challenges, not without adversity. It's to build a citizen that really matters.
Thank you, Rakhee. I think these are very powerful words. Positivity is not, is not about social media validation or looking good or having the perfect figure or having a life which is devoid of any problems. Positivity
Yes,
is survival. Positivity is
absolutely.
just picking yourself up from the pieces, the pieces of your heart which might be broken, the pieces of your
I think
spirit, which might be absolutely devastated and dismantled, and just telling yourself that the show must go on and that tomorrow is another day. What remains
absolutely.
important is what Rakhee has been reiterating, and I'm just repeating a little bit of it if it has been inaudible because it's through my phone and through my laptop,
Yeah,
is to
yeah,
remain aware of your boundaries, to invite
yeah,
and involve only the right people in your life who are not pitying you, who are not constantly, looking at you through the lens of your singlehood and through the lens of
yeah,
your suffering. Kamla Bhasin ji, who was the first guest on this series, said a beautiful thing which I've
yeah,
repeated on every episode. She said, "What do you mean by single?" When people say, "Oh, a woman is born to have her own family." But this is my family. My family is my parents and my sister. Your family is
yeah,
your brother, your mother, and you. And we have to change even the heteronormative definition of this family, which is a woman with her husband, her in laws, and her two children, and a dog, and a white picket fence. Prioritize mental happiness, prioritize emotional equilibrium, prioritize
yeah,
ambition, prioritize survival, prioritize aging gracefully, prioritize looking after your breasts and your vagina, not just as objects which men will want and crave and want to touch and kiss and look at you and validate you and find you attractive and bear children and marry you, but look at them as organs in your body which should be healthy, and you alone are
yeah,
responsible for the sexual well-being, for the mental well-being, for the your heart to be, women suffer more heart attacks silently than men. Women are prone to more bone cancer than men, osteoarthritis than men, because when women have
yeah,
menopause, the hormonal imbalance leads to not just depression, which is very common, and women losing their shit like you make jokes of, but also bone health, heart health. Most women have their heart attacks either in the perimenopausal phase or in the menopausal phase. The emotional stress that women take on is 100 times more than men. But the priority that we give ourselves is much, much lesser because we are always putting our family, our parents, our siblings, our children, our in-laws, our husband on a pedestal. So please prioritize yourself, especially like Rakhee, like me, if you're unmarried. If you're a single woman, watching, I know a lot of single women are watching. We don't have anybody else to keep reminding us and telling us. Yeah, we may have friends. We may have some colleagues who remind us, or an annual health checkup in your, office, which might take you to the doctor. But put those reminders on your phone. Download apps. Today you have apps for everything, not just making your face look thinner, but you even have apps which ensure good health. Download those things. Of course we want to look pretty and we want to buy lipsticks and saris and silver jewelry and go on fancy vacations, but nothing comes before your physical and mental health. As Rakhee is constantly saying, had she gone to her gynecologist 2 years ago, she would not have required chemotherapy. What a huge life lesson in that. Rakhee, thank you
yeah.
so much. You don't have to apologize for the network. I'm feeling very bad that our viewers could not really see you and hear you properly. I hope I have been able to be your voice to a certain extent. We'll definitely bring you back again, and on a better network day, hopefully. But look after yourself. You've given us the most important message. This is the season of the mother goddess. Women, we are goddesses. While we are worshipping and fasting and praying to the goddess, remember, in us lies the divine feminine and the sacred. Prioritize yourself. Don't just beautify yourself physically. Go to the root of your physical and mental health. And like Rakhee said, be unapologetic in putting yourself at the center of your own universe. Don't expect a knight in shining armor. Don't expect your aging parents to, tag you along, because if you're single, in most cases, you are the primary caregiver. Even if you're not single, women are always putting themselves last. Please stop doing that. Look after yourself. Rakhee, look after yourself. My regards and my love to you. Sorry about the fact that we can't see each other very clearly, but thank you once again. Thank you, Mitch. We've had a bad tech day for the first time, but hopefully, our next show on the 31st of October, which marks our 10th finale episode of this season, season 2 of Status Single with Shree, with actress Tanishta Chatterjee, who's a brazen actress. She's also an adopted, single mother to a daughter, caregiver to her parents, and also a director. She's directed a brilliant film called Rome, Rome May, which stars Nawazuddin Siddiqui. Tanishta is my next guest. Rakhee, thank you for prioritizing the importance of self-care. More than self-love, I think self-care should be at the center of all your celebrations and your journey of womanhood. Look after yourself. Look after yourself, Rakhee. Have a great festive season. Shubho Sharodiya to all my Bengali friends. Happy Navratra. Enjoy your dandiyas and your Zoom calls with your loved ones. Please wear your masks and stay safe. Good evening. Take care. Bye, Rakhee.
Bye, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Rakhee. Bye. Take care, friends. Bye, bye, bye.